I know you've heard that you should get a VPN over and over again, and there's a reason for that. It's absolutely true. It will keep you safe and anonymous online. That's especially important for me with the type of stuff I search for and read while making my videos. But there are a million reasons to get a VPN, whether it's to protect you from hackers, or to stop companies, websites, advertisers, and your ISP from tracking what websites you visit and what you're buying online. When looking for a VPN, you want to make sure you get the best, with all the features available. They are not all equal, and the best out there is NordVPN, and that's why I contacted them for this video. It's the VPN I use, and has every feature you could possibly want. They have over 4,800 servers in 62 countries that you can connect to. They do not log your data, which is important, and the company is actually registered in Panama. Peer-to-peer sharing is allowed, has unlimited bandwidth, double data encryption, up to 6 simultaneous connections, a Google Chrome extension, Onion over VPN servers, just to name a few. It even works in countries like China, which is known for their so-called Great Chinese Firewall, also in Middle Eastern countries as well. But you don't have to take my word for it. They are always highly recommended by technology experts, and the only VPN to get all green checkmarks by PC Mag. So there is no doubt that you'll be getting the best with Nord. So the only real issue is price. Well, if you use my link here, you'll get 66% off. Not 10% or 20%, 66%. I know when I was looking for a VPN, price was a consideration. Just another expense I'd have every month. But with 66% off, that is more than affordable. They also offer a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you don't like them, you can cancel and get your money back. I put the link down in the description, so make sure you use it to get that 66% off, and so they know I sent you. Or you can just use a coupon code CovertCabal, no space. Again, that is NordVPN. First, I know the title may sound like clickbait, but it is in no way misleading. Aircraft carriers, often seen as the pinnacle of modern navies, may soon become obsolete. I think it's extremely important to first define what that means. In this context, obsolete means that the risks and costs associated with operating an aircraft carrier outweighs its rewards and capabilities that it gives its user. Those risks and costs include obviously the huge price it costs to construct and to operate day to day, but also the potential cost of losing the ship, the dozens of aircraft it operates, thousands of crew on board, and the major morale loss the nation would suffer. The capabilities aircraft carriers provide are more obvious. They are, in a sense, mobile air bases that can move anywhere throughout the world's oceans. Today, some 50% of the world's population lives within 200 kilometers of the coast, all within range of strike aircraft operated from carriers. They also serve well in gunboat diplomacy, showing off your military's might. The aircraft carrier really shined in World War II, specifically in the Great Pacific Ocean that separated Japan and the US. The most famous of these being the bombing of Pearl Harbor, when 6 Japanese aircraft carriers traveled across the ocean to bomb an island over 5,500 kilometers away. Throughout the rest of the war, the carrier played an important role, notably in the Battle of Midway, the so-called turning point in the war. During the Cold War, the US built numerous aircraft carriers, while the Soviet Union focused more on ways to defeat them than building their own. This included large fleets of bombers and ships armed with numerous anti-ship missiles. The Cold War ended without the aircraft carrier facing these threats. Instead, they were largely used against nations with little to no navy of their own. Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, and even more recently with the war against ISIS. And in these conflicts, the aircraft carrier highlighted their usefulness. But the real question is, how well would they hold up against a modern navy? And this isn't just true for the US, but every other nation that operates carriers, the UK, Russia, China, and others. The biggest threats to the carrier today come from submarines and anti-ship missiles. The submarine has always been a threat to major warships. You can't see them, they can silently creep up on your vessel and strike at any moment. And detecting them is extremely difficult. It requires flying basically non-stop anti-submarine warfare, or ASW patrols, around your ships to search for the subs. They are armed with dipping sonars or sonar buoys that they can drop into the water and listen. As technology has improved greatly in detecting submarines, so too has the submarine's technology to avoid detection. It's a constant cat and mouse game. This threat was highlighted in 2005 when a Swedish submarine was able to sink a US aircraft carrier during a war game. This act has been repeated several times in war games. In 2013, a US Los Angeles attack submarine was able to sneak right up to the British illustrious carrier and took this picture. But it was not reported publicly whether it was close enough to sink the ship. But from the looks of the image, it's pretty close. So submarines are a major threat, but they've always been a threat. The real weapon that is growing exponentially in capability and proliferation is anti-ship missiles. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union built massive numbers of anti-ship missiles, with tremendous range, extremely fast speeds, and huge warheads. Aircraft carriers never travel alone. Instead, they are escorted by a number of cruisers, destroyers, and other ships that are there to protect the carrier. The Soviets knew this, therefore they planned to simply overwhelm these defenses with large numbers of these missiles in what is known as saturation attacks. Such attacks called for up to 24 bombers, each armed with multiple missiles, or several ships and submarines firing dozens and dozens of missiles at a single carrier group simultaneously. While these missiles might look good on paper, long range, fast, low flying, there is much more to it. Advanced sensors and guidance are needed. In fact, one of the reasons the US ended operational use of the anti-ship missile variant of the Tomahawk is because, at such long ranges, you had no idea what it was going to hit. If the target moves, or if it's fired just slightly off course, over hundreds of miles it could be way off course, and lock onto a civilian vessel or even a friendly ship. Today, sensors are much more advanced than they were when the Tomahawk anti-ship missile became operational back in the early 80s. These more advanced and accurate anti-ship missiles are not only operated by countries like Russia and China, even North Korea operates the relatively new Russian-built KH-35, and Chinese anti-ship missiles like the C-802 have been showing up all over the Middle East. In 2006, the Israeli INS Hanit was hit by one fired by Hezbollah, and in 2016, Houthi rebels launched several of these missiles at a US destroyer off the coast of Yemen. This growing proliferation and highly capable anti-ship missiles means that the day may be coming where operating aircraft carriers against even significantly less advanced nations may no longer be safe. There is a whole other class of anti-ship missiles out there that are posing a major threat to the aircraft carrier, and that is the anti-ship ballistic missiles. These are much more difficult to intercept due to their speed and trajectory. Their range also gives them a major advantage over the cruise missiles. Weapons like the DF-21D and the DF-26D have stated ranges of 1,500 and over 3,000 kilometers respectively. Having these missiles placed along the coast can create a huge zone in which an aircraft carrier is at risk. Along the same lines as hypersonic anti-ship missiles. Again, their speed making defending against them much more difficult. The US, with the largest fleet of aircraft carriers, has been hard at work finding ways to mitigate these threats. Weapons like the newer ESSM and the SM-6 are designed to be more capable at defending against anti-ship missiles. They have also deployed the SM-3, a weapon designed specifically to deal with ballistic missile threats like that of the DF-21D. Another tactic the US is working on is the development of tanker aircraft operating from their carriers. The aircraft is known as the MQ-25 Stingray. Strike aircraft operating from aircraft carriers only have so long of range. Having a dedicated tanker can extend that range significantly, allowing the carrier to operate farther away from threats. Also, it is planned to be unmanned and stealthy, making them harder to detect and shoot down compared to the larger conventional manned tankers, or even the FA-18s operating as a tanker. Another important issue is that aircraft carriers, in order to be sunk, need to be detected. While they are huge ships, it is not as easy to detect them as it may seem. You may have a weapon with a range of thousands of kilometers, but you need to know where to fire it. During the Cold War, and still today, Russia's strategy was to fly numerous reconnaissance aircraft out searching for American carrier groups. Other methods have since been devised, such as the use of satellites, but they are not perfect. The ocean is a huge place to search. So despite these growing risks, I do not believe we are approaching the end of the aircraft carrier. Nations like China, who operate those anti-ship ballistic missiles, are themselves working hard to build their own fleet of carriers. The US is currently building a new class of supercarriers. The UK has recently finished the first of 2 new carriers. India is working on their own fleet of carriers based off an old Soviet ship. And Russia has been long mulling over concepts for new carriers as well. And also, I think it's worth noting that the aircraft carrier is inherently an offensive weapon. It's a ship that operates as a forward deployed airbase, for use when the enemy targets are out of range of your aircraft from the homeland. On the other hand, anti-ship missiles can be considered a defensive weapon, as they are built to sink these and other ships that pose a threat to you. So some form of an aircraft carrier will always be beneficial. The solution may involve building a larger number of smaller aircraft carriers, therefore lessening the damage caused by losing one, similar in a sense to how the large battleships of World War II have largely disappeared, in favor of large numbers of smaller destroyers, cruisers, and corvettes. The US has discussed building so-called light carriers. Russia has as well. So no, the aircraft carrier, in some form or another, will still be around for decades to come.